It is Wednesday, November 12th. I'm Kyle Mountsier. I'm hanging out with MC Michael Cirillo again. We're talking about Gen Z and F&I, Farley, BYD, and this is the Automotive State of the Union. The people really want to know who I is and who I be. You see, Paul did that drop yesterday where this was the Automotive State of the Union at the end, and I felt like it was going to be right, and it was definitely right. So good.
It's the best. You guys are good at this stuff.
You're great at it. Get out of here. Don't even start with me. Don't even. The MC always comes on the show. Michael, you come on the show and you're like, you're so great at this. You're so great at segues. Why do I suck? I'm like, bro, you've been podcasting for 29 years.
You were podcasting since before you were born.
You came out of the womb podcasting. I saw it. It's crazy. It's amazing. Man, we got a lot of cool stuff coming up. I'm headed to Syracuse because we're going to film the final stuff that we need for finally releasing season 2 of a show that we may or may not be adjusting the name of. You're going to have to wait and find that out. We've also got an ASOTU Edge webinar coming up on Wednesday, November 19th. You can go to ASOTU.com. Check that out. We're hanging out with vAuto and the Cloninger Auto Group, talking about optimizing profitability across multiple acquisition channels. So make sure and register, get on the list. Whether or not you can come, you can get the recording, you can get all the details, all the stuff afterwards. We email a bunch of stuff about how to acquire vehicles across multiple rooftops. That's all we got. Let's get into it.
I'm just going to say it because us marketers have been to 1,000,001 webinars, but can I just toot our horn for a minute?
That's fine.
I'll take it. We do really good webinars.
We do. They're only 25, 30 minutes, and we get into the details fast. It's good.
And that's what we want. I remember back in the day when I started the podcast, people were like, this thing's an hour and 10 minutes long. What do you think I'm made of?
And now Rogan. You were like, early looks wrong. Got him. Speaking of early looks wrong.
Segue.
That's a segue into the first story, fam. Born digital and raised on instant access, our friends in the old Gen Z generation are reshaping how dealerships sell protection, financing, and paperwork. In CDK's 2025 F&I Shopper Study, they are showing that the generation is demanding more transparency, security, and flexibility at every step. They are twice as likely to purchase 6 or more F&I products compared to older generations. They're especially drawn to things like security and theft protection, with 29% selecting theft protection versus a 23% average. So they're up over the norm. 69% are financing outside the dealership. They're finding it in credit unions and other places like that, often coming pre-prepared with online or bank-based loans. Surprisingly, 53% still say they prefer paper signatures. They're a quarter favor a hybrid process. The report said in there, it said dealers who adapt with flexibility, transparency, and security-focused offerings will capture Gen Z's loyalty and their $12 trillion in future buying power. That's the money. Get some of that.
At first, I was like, are we talking about the Zoomers?
Not the Zoomers. The Zoomers.
The Zoomers.
You ever been to Kazakhstan? I see your shirt there. KAO.
Hey, we're talking about the Zoomers, and this sounds rude, maybe, potentially, but I'm like, wait, isn't this the generation everybody's telling us is okay making $38,000 a year and getting a vacation because they want their life? And you're telling me they're the ones buying the most F&I products?
Absolutely, man. I buck the trend that is like Gen Z's lazy, wants $38,000 and living on some deserted place. Like, I don't see that.
Well, and clearly the data is telling us a different story.
Yep.
Like, and that's kind of my point is like, hey, if you're one of those people that were on the bandwagon of like Gen Z is just a bunch of K-pop demon hunting, loving 6'7", saying, don't want to make more than 50 grand a year because they want their life in a cozy IKEA-esque 1-bedroom studio, whatever, this and that apartment. This is telling us a different story. They want reliability. They want transparency. They want to know that the thing they are buying is taken care of. And how do you ignore Kyle, how do you ignore 12 trillion in
and we just spend, and we got to get our part of it. And I think the point here is like, if you want to attract this new generation, build systems, processes, technology that can increase your transparency and their ability to adopt security at scale.
12 trillion, dude, I can't get over 12 trillion. It's like, bro, that's like 12 years of income for Elon.
Speaking of Elon.
Stop.
Segue.
Time.
Come on, man.
Not really Elon, but he might want to be after this teardown. Ford CEO Jim Farley said tearing apart Teslas and Chinese EVs was a shocking wake-up call that exposed how far traditional automakers must go to stay competitive and why Ford can't afford to back down from electric vehicles. They tore down a Tesla Model 3, which showed 1.6 kilometers less wiring than a Ford Mach-E, proving how much efficiency Ford needed to gain. That's kilometers, y'all. That's like a little over a mile and a half of, or close to a mile and a half of wires less. The discovery led Farley to create Ford's Model E division, which lost $5 billion in 2024, but he stands by the decision. Said, I knew it was going to be brutal business-wise, but it was important for Ford's EV operations to be accountable to investors. He is still pushing for a culture shift at Ford. Said, my ethos is take on the hardest problems as fast as you can and do it sometimes in public because you'll solve them faster that way.
And very publicly.
Yes. Well, but also like the public is going to tell you what they want. They're going to tell you what they need. And if you wear the transparency on your shoulder, like we saw in the last one, like the coming up generations are going to be attached to that.
Look, I mean, this made me think of, yeah, but we did a focus group. And it's like, did you pay the people to be on this focus group? Well, yeah. And so you thought you got the most reliable level of data out of the people you paid to like reinforce your biases. I mean, this is what did Johnny Carson used to say? That was weird, wild stuff. There's a weird, wild stuff going on in this space. And Farley seems to be at the front of the pack, making very public. I don't know.
Well, and continuing to press on like why we need the EV narrative and not jumping off of that. Although we've heard the reports about the F-150 Lightning potentially seeing its way out.
Yeah.
So we'll see if they can actually keep up.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, look, we were, and this kind of feeds into the next story here, but like we finally got to test drive
some of
EV
these
in
Chinese EVs. Yeah.
Kazakhstan.
Yeah.
And so when you marry that to like what this kind of like, I don't know what he's on a tirade now of like public opinion, but like he recently said like that they could take us out of business if we're not careful.
Yeah.
So you marry that to efficiency, you marry that to maybe the Ford F-150 Lightning going out of production like we, reported on the other day. I don't know, interesting times.
Yeah.
Weird, wild stuff times.
Speaking of weird, wild stuff.
Stop.
Segue.
Time.
All right, check this out. In a move that redefines the meaning of quote unquote mass production, Chinese automaker BYD is building an EV complex, and I'm not even going to try and pronounce it. You got the pronunciation there? Zhangzhou?
Zhangzhou. Yeah.
Zhangzhou. So massive, it will literally be bigger than the entire city of San Francisco.
Wild.
The Zhangzhou site will cover 50 square miles, surpassing San Francisco's 46.9, and include high rises, sports facilities, and even housing. Factory with a city attached to it is basically the concept here.
Wow.
The site will serve as a manufacturing and R&D hub capable of producing hundreds of thousands of vehicles and components annually. BYD recently overtook Tesla in European EV sales and is aggressively targeting the UK and Japan next, with full European lineup availability by 2028. The project highlights China's strategy to scale vertically and geographically, blending manufacturing, housing, and logistics. all-in-one electrified ecosystem. What do you think the power consumption of this place is going to be?
Oh, that's going to be nuts. But the real thing here, and what's very interesting to me, and if you look at the way that China has moved over the last 20 years, they've really taken a lot of interesting notes from the industrialization of America. And if you look back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s at the way cities were actually born, a lot of cities were born around industrialization, right? So this isn't a factory that's 50 square miles. They're actually building a city intended to service a factory, right? But the automaker understands what all of that does, right? You bring the employees close, you build economies of scale around it, you put a hedge of protection around that factory and all of its R&D and all of its people resources not ever going down. And you literally build an ecosystem economy around it. So this is much bigger of a play than just like, we're going to build more cars. This is hedging bets against anyone coming in and shutting down BYD for any reason, because their largest factory will be an economy keep safe.
Yeah.
So that they don't go down.
Yeah. The foreman of that factory is called the mayor.
Yes, absolutely.
You know what, though? This kind of brings up a really interesting point, and I've been thinking about it a lot lately, especially because we got to test drive one of these in our trip to Kazakhstan with KAO. And how fitting. I didn't know we were going to be reporting on this. How do I draw a little heart around the KAO here?
I love it.
We test drove one of these vehicles. We also, I know this is about EVs, but we also got to sit in and test drive some of the other Chinese auto brands. And I think there's a larger narrative here, which is twofold. First, on the point that you're making here, dealers right now need to start thinking beyond selling the car and how they are quite actually building the framework of what their community will look like 50 years from now.
For sure.
The second thing to that is we test drove a few of these Chinese brands. I think everybody wants somebody like a zealot to report on, oh, they're cheap, they're throwaways, they're this, they're that.
You just can't. You just can't.
They're good.
They're really nice.
They're really nice.
Everybody that goes over there, you're always like, oh, this one's going to be the one. They found the junk. No.
Right.
There's no junk.
And we were surprised over and over again. I mean, and we need to be paying attention to that, because when you marry it back to the original concept here, this industrialization piece, what you are going to see is a continued increase in quality of output. In a tighter ecosystem. And so we really, look, I'm not a zealot and I'm not a hype guy, but like, we do need to be paying attention very closely into what's happening on the other side of the pond.
Yeah. Well, hey, we hope this little bit of time allowed you to pay attention to what's going on broader in the auto ecosystem, so that you can track that back to how your store works with your community and your employees to ensure that you're the center of your city.